Welcome to Intel on AI, the podcast that connects listeners with leaders. My name is Heather McGuigan, and I am your host. Today's guest is Varun Chhabra. Varun is the Senior Vice President of Product Marketing at Dell Technologies. He leads a team of more than 130 marketers and is most happy when leading that team to growth and success. Now, Varun, rather than me reading your rather impressive bio, can you tell me in your own words a little bit about your position at Dell?
Heather, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. Very excited to have this conversation. As you said, I work at Dell. I've been at Dell now for about 10 years, and I lead a product marketing team for our infrastructure and telecom team. So really in the heart of the AI conversation, what customers are dealing with multi-cloud, edge workloads, all of the buzzwords that we hear about. So it's a really, really fun space to be in. And my background has been for a long, long time in product marketing. I am before business school. I've also done a little bit of software programming. So I like to call myself a lapsed software engineer sometimes. But then at home, my family and I are based out of Seattle. My wife and I have an 11-year-old son who keeps us pretty busy.
They do that. Especially as it gets warmer outside. They get busy.
Yeah, which is great. Anything to keep them away from the social media and TV.
Hundo. So you mentioned a number of sectors that you work across, and you oversee that marketing over a massive infrastructure portfolio. How do you prioritize storytelling in a world that is moving really fast?
Yeah, and it's very topical that we're talking about. We're on the Intel on AI podcast, and we're talking about storytelling, because I do think that AI is going to play a really, really important role, and to some extent it already is. But before we get into the AI, to your point, you've got to first talk about, well, how do you approach storytelling before you put the AI filter on it? And I think really, when you have a large organization with so many different product sets where things are dialing up and down on different product sets, different milestones, launches coming up, it certainly is very busy. What we've really endeavored to do in our organization is follow some very, very consistent principles when it comes to storytelling. First one is it has to be customer centric. We have to ground our narratives and our product and our offer stories in customer pain points and the opportunities that customers really see, that they see technology helping them with. So it has to be grounded in that. The second one, I think one of the what I have seen in the past is there are different aptitudes around storytelling in a large organization, right? There are people who are technical experts. There are people who maybe don't spend as much time on storytelling. There are people who are naturally gifted storytellers. And then there's a continuum or spectrum in between. So the second thing that has been really, really effective and important for us is really having a consistent approach towards storytelling. So templating things out for our team so that we can elevate even the most technical conversation to a story, something that will resonate emotionally with customers, which is actually the third principle we follow, is that at its heart, every story needs to have some sort of emotional resonance, right? So we take a lot of pride in reminding each other, and certainly sometimes even I have to be reminded of it, that stories are ultimately about resonating with our customers on a human level. So I think that's really, really important. And then the fourth point is really, as much as we can, we want to be super clear about the impact that our technology is having on our customers' lives, right? So we want to quantify things as much as possible. We want to make things simpler to understand, reduce jargon, which oftentimes in marketing, I've certainly been guilty of it in my output. It's sometimes very easy to introduce jargon and generic language, and we try to be very disciplined on using numerical-based claims, testing that's either happened internally to show the value of our products, or customer value, live real-life examples that customers have seen in terms of value. So really, just coming back to it's all about the customer value and customer centricity. We have frameworks in place to really help our team really build out a story so that it becomes simpler for them to follow a template while maintaining their creativity and giving them avenues to explore their creativity. Third thing is really it has to be grounded in emotional elements that customers can connect with as people. And then the fourth one is really, wherever possible, make it easy to understand, bring in numerical based claims so that our audience can really understand the value we're driving for them without them having to navigate through cliches and generic language.
Because as our consumer needs have changed, our product needs have changed, but our internal needs and desires as humans to connect with each other and our desires to provide and learn hasn't changed. So that's that sort of growing gap of technology going, we're still here. We've stayed human this whole time. So it's always making sure that we maintain that connection. Right. So this has been a big year for Intel launches in the data center AI space across both the Xeon 6 CPU lineup and with the Gaudi 3 AI accelerators. What does this year's launch of Xeon 6 mean for Dell and for their customers?
I think everything that Dell and Intel do is really grounded in our rich history, productive history, history of trust, working over 30 years. That's not something that can be replicated easily, right? When your engineering teams and your leadership and every part of the organization has been working with each other for a really, really long time, as long as our two companies have, really good things happen. And I think the Xeon 6 launch is a perfect example of that. So the PowerEdge servers we are launching with Xeon 6 in there, we're so excited about them. And if I think about the things that we're excited about most, it starts really with the Xeon 6 innovation, right? So if you think about the availability of T-cores for performance and E-cores for efficiency and the ability to really match, the right configuration for whatever workload you have, the workload estate for our customers is more diverse than ever before. There are workloads that need efficiency. There are workloads that need power. There's workloads that need a mix of the two. And I think being able to tailor really for the first time the right infrastructure for the right workload and have that be on that consistent Xeon 6 platform, no matter where you are on that journey, I think is just something we're very, very excited about. This is all in the context of a massive change that is happening in our customers' data center. What customers are asking us is they want more consolidation. They want more available power for other initiatives like AI. They are thinking about retrofitting their data. They're needing to retrofit their data centers with more power, more cooling, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another element of the Xeon 6 innovation with the Dell PowerEdge servers that I think customers are very excited about is the ability to consolidate, right? You're talking about that 5:1 consolidation ratio compared to previous generations. That's going to free up so much real estate for our customers in their data centers. It's going to make their operations more efficient. It's going to allow them to utilize the power they were using previously on these traditional workloads for other initiatives like AI with Gaudi 3, right? So on the Xeon 6 space, very, very excited. And then if I talk about what we're doing with Intel on Gaudi 3, I mean, we could spend our entire podcast talking about the potential of what's happening there. And really, it comes down to a few salient points in that space as well. We have a platform that on the PowerEdge side for a server line called the XE9680, it has really been the workhorse of the AI surge that's happened over the last 2 years. It's the fastest growing Dell solution of all time. So if you think about, Dell's heritage and the kind of growth we've had throughout our history, to now be at a place where for 2 years in a row now, the XE9680 is the fastest growing product in our history. It's really because of this tide that's raising all boats called AI. You may have heard about it. And what we're doing with Gaudi 3 on the 9680 is just going to make that even better, right? So if I think about the fact that these servers that take advantage of Gaudi 3 are really built for an open AI ecosystem. So if I think about Ethernet-based networking, as well as open source software that's supported on top of an open software ecosystem, I should say, that's really supported on top of Gaudi 3. That means that our customers now have more choice than ever as they're looking to turbocharge their AI workloads. That's number one. I think the number two thing is, the really nice thing about Gaudi 3 is that whether customers are training large language models or increasingly taking off-the-shelf models or their own proprietary models and using them for inferencing, for actually powering their stakeholders' productivity, whether it's empowering their customers to do more, or their internal stakeholders like their employees or their own partner ecosystem. Gaudi 3 has a really, really important role to play in that entire AI journey. So that's really, really exciting. And then finally, the way that these systems, these XE9680s with Gaudi 3 are really designed, they're built for scale. So if customers want to start out small with a few nodes, the solution supports that. If they want to scale up to thousands of nodes, as their AI workloads really hit the hockey stick of adoption, they can rest assured that the platform will be with them all the way through, right? So they're not having to change horses, if you will, halfway through the race.
Nice. It's a very, very good analogy. It makes so much sense when you explain it that way and how all of these technologies are working together. I want to ask a little about your internal AI deployment. So, from a marketing perspective, how do you see GenAI shift the way product messaging is created and consumed?
It's a game changer, Heather, for us. And this is probably true this is definitely true across multiple industries. But from a product marketing perspective, what it does is or marketing in general, it really empowers our team members to do so much more, to be more productive. Now, I told you right at the start, I have a little bit of an allergy to cliches, so I'll uncliche what I said and give you a little bit more specific. So take a typical product marketer, for example. What they end up doing in a week-to-week basis is, let's say we have a new product launch coming up for a new product. It could be, let's take the XE9680 with the PowerEdge XE9680 with Gaudi 3. What a product marketer will often do for that line is they will create a messaging brief for it. It'll have all the messaging value proposition, the supporting benefits, the key features, et cetera, et cetera. And then what they have to do they spend a lot of time on that. That's kind of the heart of your story. You then have to merchandise it into, 50 different pieces of content, right? You've got to go build a solution brief for the website. You've got to go create a training presentation for sales. You've got to go create a customer presentation. You've got to go create copy for your website or .com website. You've got to go create, an analyst presentation. You've got to create social media copy. In the non-GenAI world that we all lived in 2 years ago, or even a year ago, was you have to go and do that. You got to take that messaging and then you got to go give that to somebody else. They'll build some social media messaging. Maybe you have to do it yourself. And you got to go build a deck. You got to go build all of those things. And then you have to do it in a world where you as a product marketer are the expert. So even if somebody else is doing something, you've got to go check that, right? And you delegate because you can't possibly create all those pieces of content. Ideally, you'd be able to create all those things yourself because then you don't have to double check it, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a very efficient workflow. In the GenAI world, you can now feed this brief into a GenAI tool or many different GenAI tools and ask it to actually create, hopefully you've built in templates, you can ask it to create all these different form factors or merchandise into these different form factors. This is a game changer. Like if you think about how much time it can and will and is saving a team like mine today, it's amazing. And what we're hearing from some of the early adopters, some of the kind of the champion users, is that it's making them so much more productive. They're able to do way more. Our timelines are getting compressed. So, before we needed T minus X weeks of information to be ready so that we could, get all this stuff done, which then put a upstream impact on, product management or engineering to get certain things done. They can now get those things done closer to launch because it takes us less time to get these things updated. So that's product marketing. In other places, there's so many other, social media, as I just said, you can create social media copy, you can create web copy so faster than ever before. You can be a lot more sophisticated about how you target customers, which customers you target for which products, next logical purchase suggestions. How do you cater content to folks when they show up on your website? All of these things are being enabled by GenAI, and it's really fundamentally transforming the day-to-day life of a marketer in I think across the industry.
And when I think about someone who, let's say, is starting a small business who has knowledge of the product that they're going to create, but saying, I don't know a website and I don't know a font and I don't know content creation, but I don't necessarily have the capital to hire special for each of these people. I really kind of a one-stop shop at this. It really does open up that opportunity to create a consistent brand at the speed that you need when you really are excited to get going with your business.
I completely agree, Heather. And it also makes us, I talked about customer centricity. It also makes us more customer centric. In the past, as a marketer, if you need input on customers, you're either talking to customers in things like, executive briefings, or you are talking to a salesperson, or you got to pick up the phone and get a lot of feedback. You can now run these really impressive queries on the various AI tools that are out there that can go collect data for you just like this and give you a perspective on what's happening across, whatever data sources it can pull across the web. It's a game changer. It'll make all of us so much better at our jobs and more productive as well.
So I know you're not allowed to share too much secret information on our podcast today, but where can you tell us about where Dell's marketing department is on its GenAI journey?
Heather, I think what really stands out to me with our experience with AI for marketing is that if you don't fix your processes and you apply, the latest and greatest AI tool to a process that is fundamentally broken or doesn't work efficiently, you're not solving any problems. In fact, you're creating more. So a lot of what we've been spending time on is really cleaning out our processes and making them more efficient, so that they're ready for automation. Right? Automation is one part of the GenAI journey, I think. But it is really, really important to spend time looking at your data, cleaning up your processes. The stuff that's going to be the input to the AI tool needs to be humming at 100% efficiency for your AI efforts to really work. And that's actually what we spend a lot of time talking to customers about, is that rather than get infatuated with, certain new model that does, something better than maybe the previous model or some new tool, those things are important, don't get me wrong, but they're only important as long as you've cleaned up your house before. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Data, for example, is the fuel for the AI rocket ship. This is something Michael Dell has said a lot. If your data is dirty, your rocket ship is just not gonna fly. So what I will say, I think in terms of our journey on the marketing front and in general, is taking the time to really set up your processes up front and clean them up is really, really important.
So off the top of the podcast, I mentioned that you have a large team that you coach. And so do you have any advice on how your marketers are to navigate this AI-infused world?
I think the biggest advice I would give to anybody, whether it's a senior leader looking to drive AI in their organization or AI usage in their organization, or people who are kind of doing the day-to-day product marketing roles, is really you've got to lean in. You just have to lean in. This is a new way of doing things. And as with any sort of phase shift that has happened in the workforce before, there is understandable concern, misinformation, a lot of things that are a lot of public debate about what all of this means for us as human beings, what all of this means for us as the workforce. And that can create, I think, paralysis, unproductive conversations. The only way forward, in my opinion, is to lean in. I have personally found that what really works is, as a leader, you've got to lean in and you've got to embody the change that you want people to see. So I use AI a lot in my daily world and my daily life. And I use it because I wanted to, I've been for the first 2-3 weeks, I was pushing myself to do it. I would say, oh, can I use AI for this? Eventually, AI tools they're just so amazing and helping you be more productive that it becomes second nature because the value is there. You're not forcing yourself to use something. So I think as a leader, the first thing you've got to do is, are you operating on the same thing, in the same way that you're asking your team to operate? So if you're asking your team to use AI tools, are you using AI tools yourself? And if you're not, your team is going to know and they're going to find out. That's going to hurt your chances of driving AI adoption, I think, is the first thing. And the second thing is, you've got to stay connected to the team and talk to them and understand what their day-to-day experience with the AI tools is. One of the things that we in the company pride ourselves on is that whether it's our employees or customers, we spend a lot of time with them after we've deployed a solution or enabled them with a new technology to really understand what their experience is. So I spend a lot of time, and my leaders spend a lot of time with our teams on how their experience is using these AI tools, the processes, and we tweak things a lot because nothing is going to be perfect when you roll things out. And chances are, given the speed at which things are going, is that you are going to break a few things from time to time. So I think it's very important to stay connected to the team so that their feedback is heard and they can see that their feedback is being heard. And then that also gives you an opportunity to really understand where the team is on the continuum of, I'm embracing this change, I'm fully on board. There might be some people that are still on the fence, and there might be some people that are actively fighting the change. It gives you a sense of where the organization is across that spectrum, which means that you could then adjust as you move forward.
You sound like an extraordinary leader. Your team is very lucky to have you.
Well, I'm lucky to work with some really, really smart people. I think that's really what it is.
So AI has moved from buzzword and concept to boardroom strategy. What is a standout example you've seen where AI drove real business impact?
Where do we start? It's so many different places. I think, we've seen examples across industries that are just fundamentally changing how these industries operate. I'll give you some, without giving names of customers, but just give you some industry. So we have customers in the transportation industry that are using AI to scan trains as they drive by, to reduce the amount of time it takes to determine any potential faults with how the train was set up. And something that used to take a lot of manual intervention and would take a long time goes from many hours to a few seconds, right? And think about the productivity that unleashes, right? We've got healthcare professionals using multimodal LLMs to scan X-rays and figure out X-rays or other body scans to figure out what else could be happening that maybe a doctor might have missed, or to supplement the doctor's understanding of what's going on. Just fundamentally transformative experiences across the board to do that. I will say one thing though, just I know you asked for a kind of a maybe a more professional experience. The thing that I personally have found, the thing that I'm personally so excited about with AI is the ability it will have, or it has to, or the potential, I should say, it has to help with education for children. And, one of the things, we've gone, my wife and I have gone on a journey with is, our son has special needs when it comes to education, and the ability of AI to be able to meet where he is in a way that perhaps only very, very special teachers can, and the ability to be able to interact with his needs, to be able to give information where it's required, how it's required, is extraordinary. And if I think about the amount of places in the world where access to education is severely limited, and that often ends up being the difference between the haves and the have-nots, the potential for what AI can do in the world to unlock potential, and if you would forgive me one cliche, just really unlock human potential. I mean, the mind boggles. Can you imagine, Heather, what would happen if we had 10 times the number of doctors that we have today just because people have more access to education? 10 times the number of scientists, 10 times the number of I don't know, astronauts or space explorers, think of what we could do, right? It would be unbelievable. So that to me really encapsulates the potential of the positive impact that AI is going to have on making us as humans just so much more. I keep saying productive, and somehow productive I don't think does justice to what AI is going to do to us and to our world. It's gonna unlock something that in human potential that I don't think we've ever been able to do before.
It's amazing. That's an amazing answer. When you are speaking with CIOs or CTOs, what are some of the more common misconceptions that you're helping to clear up about AI adoption?
So Heather, the first thing is sort of in line with what I was talking about before, which is a lot of times people think that, oh, if I need to run these if I need to get these AI initiatives going, I just have to buy the right gear, the right servers, the right storage, the right GPU, and voila, I have AI. And the reality is, to have AI efforts actually make a meaningful impact and deliver ROI to the business, you have to think about people, processes, and data. People, because ultimately aligning stakeholders, both internal and external, can be a huge difference between the effectiveness of a new technology or a process. It's really, really important to do the diligence before. For example, when you're selecting use cases, which use cases are going to have the most impact? How is it going to impact different stakeholders? Thinking through how to align those things, having those conversations before you deploy the technology is going to be super important. It's going to set you up for success. As I said before already, processes, right? You've got to get the processes fixed and streamlined, because applying good technology on bad processes doesn't solve the problem. It actually makes the problem worse. And thirdly, it's data. Like I said, feeding dirty data or dirty fuel into your rocket ship is going to make it that much more likely that your rocket ship is not going to approach escape velocity. So taking the time to think about your data sources, looking at data that is increasingly distributed across the edge, across data center, across public cloud, bringing it together and doing that homework before is going to make it that much more likely that your AI efforts are going to be successful.
I have one last question for you today. And we've had such an in-depth and really heartfelt conversation. So I thought I would ask you something that's sort of frivolous and anecdotal to finish us off. So if you had to compare the current AI era to a movie or a moment in pop culture, what comes to mind?
You want to know what's funny, Heather? I asked AI this question today. I won't say which AI. And I said, hey, what movies should I consider? And the examples it came up with were The Matrix, not a good example.
That it doesn't work out for like a lot of
Exactly. The second, literally, that was the first example, and it had a reason why that was not dystopian for it. But I was like, that's not. I don't think that's a great answer. Second one was Terminator, and I said, well, what do you like? What? and it was giving up this example of, you've got to be careful about guardrails around AI, et cetera, et cetera. Look, all of those things are things we've got to be concerned about. But I come back to two examples. I'm a huge movie buff. Number one is Iron Man. I mean, when I saw Iron Man in, early 2000s, whenever it came out, and Tony Stark talked to Jarvis, his personal AI assistant, and it was this ambient thing that was giving him suggestions of stuff, I never thought that I would be able to do something like that at some point in time. I mean, I'm not Tony Stark, of course, but I have an AI assistant on my phone that I use all the time, to the point where sometimes my wife doesn't know if I'm talking to her or to my AI assistant. And
screen, and he had it up and he was moving stuff around and
but
things, and
even if you don't have that, eventually, I'm sure we'll get there, but even if you don't have that, just asking it basic questions about, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think, what are some suggestions? I am so much more creative because I get so many ideas that I never thought about with AI across a multitude of things. So that example keeps coming back to me again and again. And then the other example is Back to the Future. So if you think about what happens in Back to the Future, I think it was in the first part, right, where he goes to the future. Actually, no, he goes to the past in the first part. I think in this second one,
he goes ahead.
So he goes to the future. Yeah, second one, he goes to the future, where he all of a sudden goes into this world where he doesn't recognize so many things, and so many things have changed about basic technology, even like skateboarding, right? For example, or how cars work. I feel like we're in that Back to the Future car right now, in that DeLorean that's headed to the future, and things are changing in front of our eyes, and it is going to be so incredible. Um, there's going to be so much change and it's happening. We're the ones experiencing it. We're the generation that is seeing how things change and how quickly we're approaching to this world. So sometimes I feel like we're sitting in that DeLorean, and every day something new pops up that you're like, this is crazy. Like, only 2.5 years ago, many people first found out about ChatGPT 3.5 and had their minds blown. And the amount of things that have happened since then, it's incredible. It's just incredible. So really, it comes back to Iron Man, and kind of the being able to talk to this Jarvis assistant to make you the best you can be in whatever you want to do. And the second thing really is Back to the Future. Those are the pop culture references for me.
Amazing. This has been such a fascinating conversation. I want to thank Varun Chhabra, aka Tony Stark or Doc, whichever you want, for coming on the podcast today. For everyone who is listening, thank you so much for coming on. Again, my name is Heather McGuigan. I'm your host, and this was another episode of Intel on AI.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Visit intel.com/AI to learn more.